want to begin first with an expression about the loss of the 39th President of the United States, James Earl Carter. The nation is mourning at this hour for the extraordinary president, for the extraordinary character of the man. We're going to talk about that in the first hour. My guest is Dr. Wilmer Leon, who is a political scientist whose primary areas of expertise are Black American politics and public policy. Dr. Leon has a bachelor's degree in political science from Hampton Institute, a master's in public administration, and a PhD in political science from Howard University. Dr. Leon is a nationally syndicated columnist and the host of Sirius XM satellite radio's Inside the Issues with Wilmer Leon. He's also a regular contributor to national and international television news programs, newspapers, and websites. Dr. Leon is the author of the book Politics, Another Perspective, Commentary and Analysis on Race, War, Ethics, and the American Political Landscape in the Age of Obama. His book has been referred to as a modern-day textbook of and roadmap of ideals in this country. All of his opinions are fact-based and supported by other learned scholars who unfortunately are not part of today's glitz and glamour ratings game. We're going to get some insight and some truth today from Dr. Wilmer Leon. Dr. Leon, we're going to need another book on commentary and analysis on race, war, ethics, and the American political landscape in the age of Donald Trump. That's what we're going to be talking about in this hour. In our second hour, we'll be joined by Rabbi Michael Rothenberg, a passionate advocate for criminal justice reform. Michael is a graduate of South Texas College in Law in Houston, Texas, where he earned his doctorate in jurisprudence. He graduated with honors from the University of Florida. Michael was a founding member of Rothenberg and Barnes and McKinley Rothenberg LLC, where he practiced in the areas of general civil litigation, family law, criminal defense, and business litigation. Michael was appointed to the bench on August 7, 2007, and sworn in as a judge pro hoc vice of the DeKalb County Court, where he served until 2008. Throughout his career, Michael gained the reputation as a zealous advocate of his clients' interest. He handled cases in nearly all areas of civil law and tried criminal cases ranging from traffic tickets to murder cases. In the second hour, we'll be discussing with Rabbi Michael Rothenberg criminal justice reform and the remaining hours of the Joe Biden administration. Rabbi Rothenberg was one of my cellmates when I was in prison, and he too seeks a pardon from the President of the United States. But for now, I'm honored that Dr. Wilmer Leon is our guest in the first hour. Dr. Leon, welcome to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show.
Well, Jesse, thank you so much for the invitation. Greatly appreciate it. And greetings to everyone, especially those sitting in traffic. Better them than me.
I heard that. Dr. Leon, your thoughts on the passing of the 39th President of the United States, James Earl Carter.
It is a great loss to the country. He was a very good man. He was truly a good man. I didn't always agree with his politics. I think he made some compromises for the sake of politics that I wish he had not made. For example, the compromises he made on the Humphrey Hawkins Full Employment Act bill. He also made some race-based compromises when he ran for governor of Georgia, but from all I could discern, he learned from his mistakes. He was a Christian in the truest sense, not a political Christian as many seem to be today. He was a man of faith. He lived his faith, and may he rest in peace.
He made some fairly extraordinary appointments too. I remember Andrew Young appointed to the United Nations, who at the time of his appointment was also president of the Security Council. Andrew Young had a controversial meeting with the Palestinian Liberation Organization, a controversial meeting, I believe, with Yasser Arafat, and was subsequently fired by Jimmy Carter, but still beloved by African Americans. Coretta Scott King, Ralph Abernathy, and others spoke very highly of the former president.
Yes, he also appointed the first African American woman to be a member of a presidential cabinet. He appointed a number of people of color to be federal judges. So he was very progressive in that regard, and also an incredibly intelligent guy. He was a nuclear physicist and a submariner. You got to be a smart guy to run a submarine.
Absolutely.
So no, he was a very, very intelligent guy, and very forward thinking. He was the first. He put solar panels on the roof of the White House when nobody was thinking about solar power. Very progressive in that regard, in his thinking.
And he also came at a time when President Richard Nixon had been fired. He resigned from the White House amid a shame scandal tied to Watergate, succeeded by Gerald R. Ford. And the country had been kind of tired of politics as usual when Jimmy Carter, mild-mannered peanut farmer from Georgia, entered the scene.
And, I think it's also very important for people. I always tell folks, you have to, we don't exist in a vacuum, and events don't happen in a vacuum. So it's very important to understand the time in which Jimmy Carter was born, the place where he was born, because that had a tremendous impact on shaping his politics. And I want to say his father was born like 8 years after Abraham Lincoln was assassinated. Jimmy Carter was the first American president to be born in a hospital. As the governor of Georgia, he advocated for public health. He advocated for women's health. He advocated for the health of Black women because his mother was a nurse. So, I mean, again, we could parse his politics, and many have, and many still will. But at the end of the day, I think Jimmy Carter was a very good man.
When we come forward, we'll be joined with Dr. Wilmer Leon, one of the nation's foremost African-American political scientists and thinkers. I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. on KBLA Talk 1580. When we come forward.
Please bring you up to speed on the news of the day. You're listening to Jesse Jackson Jr. only on KBLA Talk 1580.
Right now, there are young people across the world facing a tough choice: continue their dream of education or drop out to help their family put food on the table. You can help change their future in a single moment. See how far your support can go at unbound.org.
Somebody bring out the confetti, baby! Starting Monday, January 6th, KBLA Talk 1580 has a new midday lineup.
I'm excited.
Are you ready for Tavis Smiley, Dr. Cornel West, Jesse Jackson Jr., D.L. Hughley, and E. Cordelai Corte back-to-back?
Oh, my God.
Are you really ready for all this smoke?
I'm ready, brother.
Yes, we still have Dominique DePrima in the mornings and Zoe Williams in the evenings, but middays just got lit on KBLA Talk 1580.
We on fire.
All across America, people are talking about our new midday lineup. Starting Monday, January 6th, our KBLA 1580 app downloads are on fire because everybody's going to be tuning in.
Yes, I love you guys. You are the bomb.
Now would be a good time to hit up SMB at KBLA1580.com if you want folks to hear about your business or brand. That's SMB at KBLA1580.com. It's going up in 2025 on KBLA Talk 1580. It's going up.
That's what I want.
If you need up to $3,000, go to WeFixMoney.com. WeFixMoney.com is the name you can trust. It's free to use, available 24/7, and you are never required to accept any loan offer. Some lenders offer same-day funding. If you need up to $3,000, type WeFixMoney.com directly into your browser. WeFixMoney.com has been helping customers for 15 years and has an A rating with the Better Business Bureau. So, if you need cash for credit card bills, car repairs, child care, or anything else, go to WeFixMoney.com. Make sure you type WeFixMoney.com directly in your browser. Go to the company you trust, WeFixMoney.com. Just fill in the information and get an answer in minutes at WeFixMoney.com. For up to $3,000, go to WeFixMoney.com. That's WeFixMoney.com.
KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
KBLA Talk 1580, connecting you with services and solutions. LA County's new Justice Care and Opportunities Department, or JCOD, is here to support justice-involved individuals and their families. The JCOD Support Center is now taking calls at 1-833-LACJCOD. That's 1-833-522-5263. Available 7 days a week from 6 a.m. to 11 p.m., the Support Center is your one-stop shop for re-entry issues and court support. They offer court reminders, connections to local services, transportation assistance for housing, court appearances, and childcare. The JCOD hotline provides personalized help to connect you with services that you need. And don't forget to check out justiceconnect.org for more information. Remember, it's free and available every day at 1-833-522-5263. This is a community call to action from KBLA.
I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. We come forward on KBLA Talk 1580 on the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. My special guest is noted political scientist Dr. Wilmer Leon. Dr. Leon, just before the break, we were talking about the 39th President of the United States, and you offered balance between that which he did right and some of the challenges as a Southern governor that he had. Do you have additional thoughts about President Jimmy Carter? I think we may have a technical difficulty because Dr. Leon is not with us at this second. I'm reflective upon President Jimmy Carter because my father one day invited me to go with him to a meeting. I had no idea where he was taking me. I was in Washington, D.C. at the time. And he said, just come and ride with me, come and go with me. And he had a driver that took us to the White House. I remember sitting in an office just outside of the Oval Office. My father said to me, just sit here and wait. I have a meeting, and then I'll be back in a few moments. About 10 minutes later, Dad came out of the meeting, and followed behind him was the President of the United States, James Earl Carter, the 39th President of the United States. And I had a blow pop in my hand. I was sucking on a lollipop. And the President of the United States asked me what that was, and I told him it was a blow pop. I reached in my pocket and grabbed another one and said, Mr. President, would you like one? And for those of you who are watching on the app or watching on YouTube, you're looking at a picture of my father's introduction and the astonishment on my face when I first met President Jimmy Carter. And there's another picture that I provided them with of me actually handing Jimmy Carter a lollipop. Yes, a blow pop, the one with the bubble gum in the middle. And that lollipop is the thing of lore now, because I probably was the only person who's ever provided the President of the United States with a lollipop. But thus began my relationship with President Jimmy Carter. I had the great privilege of meeting him as a member of Congress. Of course, by the time he left the presidency, we had 4 years of Ronald Reagan initially, and then 8 years of Ronald Reagan's presidency on the tail end of the Carter administration. But overwhelmingly, it is Jimmy Carter's decency that he will be known for. Dr. Wilmer Leon helped balance that decency with another truth, that as a Southern governor, Dr. Leon acknowledged that Jimmy Carter, early in his career, had some difficult problems with the African-American community. Dr. Leon, your continued reflections upon Jimmy Carter.
Again, he made some decisions that I think it may have been Strom Thurmond who made a similar decision after having been defeated in a local race. That famous quote, "I'll never be N-worded again," or out N-worded again. Mm-hmm. And we know the history of Strom Thurmond. Jimmy Carter made some compromises with the Klan. He made some compromises with a number of other racist elements in Georgia at the time. But when you read his acceptance speech as governor, when he did win the race, he immediately called for integration in Georgia. Mm-hmm. He changed his religious congregation, the church that he attended, because they would not vote to bring in black members to the congregation. So why he made those changes, I do not know. But he was consistent, I believe, from that point forward, and we take it for what it is.
Dr. Leon, your thoughts about the as we reflect upon the remaining and waning hours of the Biden administration, what do you think history is going to say about Joe Biden?
Oh, wow. I don't think that the record will be pleasant. I know my reflections upon Joe Biden will be he made promises during the campaign he did not keep, which was part of, I think, a Democratic strategy. For example, he campaigned on making Roe, federalizing Roe into law, codifying Roe. He did not, to my knowledge, did not attempt to. But I can't put that blame squarely on the doorsteps of Joe Biden. That seemed to have been a Democratic Party issue. I think former President Obama ran on a similar campaign. They, to me, saw the women's right to health care issue more beneficial to them as a campaign issue than a problem solved. So I can't put that solely at the feet of Joe Biden, but he was complicit in that crime. There were other things that he ran on that he did not even attempt to pass. So I don't think that the record for Joe Biden is going to nearly be as favorable of a record as the Democrats are trying to construct.
There seems to be a lot of talk about Joe Biden's decency against the backdrop of the decency of Jimmy Carter. From your perspective, how important is the idea of character in the White House?
I think the idea of character in the White House is incredibly important. Unfortunately, those that are now seeking the post and many recent that have held the post don't seem to give a damn about it. They don't seem to care about it. But character should mean should be just about everything. There was a time when an American president said something, it meant something. And unfortunately now with 47 coming in and how he engaged as 45, what we see 46 having done in terms of starting the war in Ukraine, trying to start a war with China over Taiwan, backing genocide in Gaza, trying to assassinate Nicolas Maduro. I mean, there are a number of things that and many of these things really demonstrate the United States opposing sovereignty of countries, the United States opposing democracy in countries. Lest we forget, in 2014, it was the United States government. It was the United States government that went in and overthrew the democratically elected president of Ukraine. So character, there was a time when character in the White House meant something. Unfortunately, now it also was a time when people of the world turned to the United States to be a moral compass, to be a guide or a waypoint or a waypost. Now, that's no longer the case.
In 2024, it seems in the last national election that Democrats lost a lot. They lost their footing, both in the House of Representatives, definitely in the Senate of the United States, and obviously with Joe Biden's withdrawal from the campaign and the ascension of Kamala Harris. Obviously, African-American women felt a very proud moment associated with that campaign, but we did not win the presidency. I think we got very close in many battleground states, and obviously 1.5% was the difference in the votes between Kamala Harris and Donald Trump. But the Democratic Party, what, in your opinion, Dr. Leon, is the state of the Democratic Party?
It is in a terrible state. And it is because Democrats have forgotten I won't say that they have forgotten what they're supposed to stand for, because they continue to articulate social programs. They continue to support the middle class. They continue to articulate rhetoric that we support the middle class, we stand for social programs, but they don't legislate. They don't promote or propose legislation to support those ideals. Again, when you look at the United States trying to start a war with China, that's a Democratic administration that's in power. When you look at who started the conflict in Ukraine, that started with a Democratic president. Who is backing genocide in Gaza? That's a and Kamala Harris wouldn't even allow a Palestinian spokesperson to have any time at the DNC in Chicago. You're trying to sell me genocide? I'm going to repeat that. You're trying to sell me genocide. The answer is no. So they've lost their way to a great degree. When you look at, and there's a public report that shows the amount of money that AIPAC has contributed to Democratic legislators, particularly of color. And so now you have to ask yourself whose interests are being served and for what end. So no, they have forgotten from whence they've come. They know they can't win without us, so they will continually campaign to us. But when it comes to legislating for us, they are sadly, woefully lacking. This is a duopoly, two wings on the same bird.
I campaigned for Harris in Gettysburg, Lancaster, Pennsylvania, and Harrisburg, Pennsylvania, outside of Philadelphia, outside of Pittsburgh, but in these rural counties. And I've shared with our listeners that my truck broke down. And where my truck broke down, it broke down in rural America. It broke down in red country, MAGA country. I saw that myself. And I didn't see any Kamala Harris signs. I didn't see large rallies or large numbers of people turning out for Kamala Harris. To your point about the message of the Democrats claims to be speaking for these working class white folks. But the reality is there is a distance between the, if you will, the intellectual elites of the Democratic Party who've mastered what to say to working people and to poor people and actually being able to deliver for them. Do you see any future for the party in the midterms in the era of Donald Trump?
I don't see right now any future for them in the midterms, because they should have started talking about the midterms on the 6th or the 7th of November. They should have been framing a message about what it is they stand for, what and how they are going to what they are going to put forward between now and 2026. And all I hear is head scratching and Hakeem Jeffries saying, well, we're still doing our post-election analysis. Dude, you got whooped. You got whooped. You didn't win a swing state. You lost Michigan. You lost Pennsylvania. You got whooped. And so I don't hear them saying anything. Look at what happened with the continuing resolution. When Hakeem Jeffries and Mike Johnson shook hands on a deal, right? And Mike Johnson, because Donald Trump and Elon Musk decided they didn't like the deal. Elon Musk, a guy that hasn't been elected to do anything, and Donald Trump, a guy who was elected but has yet to come to office, they scuttled the continuing resolution. Where was Joe Biden? I thought Joe Biden was president. Isn't Joe Biden president until the 20th of January?
He certainly
well,
is.
You wouldn't know it. You wouldn't know it. because he was what is Daniel? I think it's 527 weighed in the balances and found wanting. His silence was deafening. Deafening. What do they stand for? What will they fight for? I don't want to hear, well, we won't get this passed, we won't get that passed. Fight for it. That's what I think most Americans are looking for their party to do. Fight for them. Because the outcome isn't predetermined. That's why you play the game. You play the game to determine the outcome, not to just summarily concede on the front end and compromise before the fight was even waged.
Dr. Leon, I think Hakeem Jeffries has a really, really difficult job. I mean, he's got 60 members of the Black Caucus. He has the largest Hispanic caucus in the history of the United States. He has a women's caucus. He has pro-LGBTQ members of the Congress in his caucus. He has conservative white men and conservative white women in the Democratic caucus. I'm reminded of Ben-Hur when Charlton Heston had to train horses on the inside to turn a little tighter and run a little faster on the outside in order to get around the Roman Colosseum. The reflection upon the job that an African-American minority leader has in the Congress has to be extremely difficult. And I can imagine that when he thinks about his caucus, which is not a MAGA caucus, it is as diverse as you know that it is, that pulling those horses together is in a very, very, very difficult thing for Hakeem Jeffries to do. When we come forward with Dr. Wilmer Leon, we will continue this conversation on KBLA Talk 1580. I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. on the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show.
You're riding with Jesse Jackson Jr. on KBLA Talk 1580.
I'm Amber Payton with 4 things you should know from BIN News. President-elect Trump lost a federal appeal to overturn a $5 million judgment on E. Jean Carroll's sexual abuse and defamation case. He was also ordered to pay $83 million in additional defamation damages. Chatham County, Georgia's first Black sheriff, Richard Coleman, was sworn in on Saturday, succeeding John Wiltshire after nearly a decade. Coleman aims to take a more active role in fighting crime. Richmond, Virginia Mayor LeVar Stoney and other Virginia leaders are honoring Jimmy Carter, who passed away at 100, as a symbol of service. Stoney, who is Black, called him the embodiment of public service, while others praised his compassion, integrity, and global impact. And Texas has a law banning diversity programs in public universities, but when lawmakers get back to work next month, there will be a debate over expanding it to the college classroom. Get BIN News on demand 24/7 at BINnews.com.
A couple of things in Anaheim. First, on the southbound 57 at Ball Road, a 3-vehicle accident cleared from lanes over to the right-hand shoulder, but you're backed up to the 91. Speaking of the 91, westbound side, just past Harbor Boulevard, an accident involving a big rig cleared from lanes over to the right side here as well, but that's causing traffic to slow starting at Kramer-Glassell. 405 southbound just past the 10, an accident involving a car hauler and a vehicle cleared off the right shoulder.
Score deep discounts and deeper sleep during Mattress Firm's semi-annual sale and clearance. Take up to 60% off select mattresses and more. Plus, get a free adjustable base on qualifying purchases. Shop today for free and fast delivery. Restrictions apply.
This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
Today, December 30th, LeBron James turns 40 years old. He becomes the 32nd NBA player to play in games after turning 40. LeBron was 18 when he played his first NBA game with Cleveland in 2003. There is much more to this milestone for LeBron. He is one of only 2 players in NBA history to average at least 20 points per game after turning 40. The other is Michael Jordan. MJ put up 22.4 points per game with the Washington Wizards in the 30 games he played after turning 40 in 2003. LeBron is averaging 23.5 this season. There are few indications that LeBron's numbers will drop after his birthday today. He is one of the reasons the Lakers are 18-13 and in the middle of the Western Conference playoff chase. When the Lakers play Cleveland Tuesday night, LeBron would be the first NBA player to play in his teens, in his 20s, in his 30s, and now 40s. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson on KBLA Talk 1580.
Follow the leader. KBLA Talk 1580. Follow the leader.
If you're not following KBLA Talk 1580 on all of our socials, then you're missing out. Download our app and find us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, and on the web at KBLA 1580.
That's right.
Again, you can find all of our socials at KBLA 1580.
We've got a lot to talk about.
By the way, if you miss any of our weekday shows in real time, you can always catch up by checking out the podcast of your favorite shows at your leisure. At KBLA Talk 1580, we've got your black.
Got your black. Follow the leader. Oh my God. Follow the leader. Follow the leader. Follow the leader.
For victims of drunk and drug driving, our grief is unique, but you are not alone. You always have a place at MAD. Call our 24-hour victim helpline at 877-MAD-HELP or visit mad.org.
Environmental justice is racial justice.
Environmental justice is social justice.
This is KBLA Talk 1580.
Oh no, stomach issues again?
Stomach issues? Who are you? Your pancreas. I could be the real reason for your diarrhea, gas, bloating, stomach pain, or loose oily stools.
I thought it was my stomach.
People often do, but any of these symptoms could mean having a condition called exocrine pancreatic insufficiency, or EPI. With EPI, the pancreas doesn't release enough enzymes to break down food, but EPI is manageable. Use the symptom checker on identifyepi.com and speak with your doctor. That's identifyepi.com. Sponsored by AbbVie.
Why pay more for prescriptions? Stop overpaying and start saving with SingleCare. It's easy. Find your prescription on singlecare.com, show the coupon at the pharmacy, and start saving. SingleCare works at pharmacies nationwide and is completely free to use, whether you have insurance or not. So the next time you fill a prescription, check SingleCare to make sure you're getting the best price. Take control of your prescription costs. Go to singlecare.com or download the free app today.
KBLA Talk 1580.
We've got a lot to talk about.
KBLA Talk 1580, connecting you with services and solutions. If you need help getting your resume in order, finding job training, or landing a job, we've got 3 great options for you. First, the City of Los Angeles has WorkSource centers across the area offering free job support. The California Workforce Development Board can help you with everything from GED prep to vocational training at no cost to you. On the federal level, the Department of Labor's American Job Centers offer a full range of services for job seekers and businesses alike. Visit careeronestop.org, or for more info, just call California's Help Center or visit cwdb.ca.gov or call 916-657-1440. For the City of Los Angeles programs, go to ewdd.lacity.gov or call 213-744-7300. All these services are free to help you get your next job. This is a community call to action from KBLA Talk.
Jr. on KBLA Talk 1580. You're listening to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. We have now come forward with Dr. Wilmer Leon, one of the nation's leading political science. Dr. Leon, just before the break, you were talking about the difficulty of Hakeem Jeffries' job.
Mm-hmm. And you listed a number of challenges that he faces, and I shed not one tear for that man. He's on the wrong side of history on too many issues. Look, he and Vice President Harris went to CARICOM, tried to convince the CARICOM countries to back the United States reinvasion of Haiti. That's the wrong side of history. Absolutely. You're trying to, along with Linda Thomas Greenfield at the UN and so many others, trying to sell me genocide in Gaza. Wrong side of history. So what do you stand for, Hakeem Jeffries? That's what I want to know.
I told my listeners that they were going to get the truth from Dr. Wilmer Leon. Hey. And when we go into the full programming of KBLA in the in the new year, our show's going to be following Cornel West. So when you come on as a regular correspondent, Dr. Wilmer Leon is going to keep us honest.
Well,
on politics and what's going on.
I grew up down the street from Dr. West, so the water in Sacramento serves us well. Where are you on health disparity? Where are you on wealth disparity? Where are you on home ownership? What are you proposing? What pieces of legislation are you even talking about?
Well, now let me mix it up with you here, Doc, because,
please.
Because I think it's important for us to make some of this transition. How is any of that possible with the incoming Trump administration when Hakeem Jeffries now runs a party that is a minority party, and they've got to try and get something done with no votes in the House, assuming all Republicans stick with Mike Johnson, which assumes that Mike Johnson is still going to be Speaker of the House. Then get it through the Senate and then make it to Donald Trump's desk. How do Democrats fight in this Trump era as you make this case for our principled politics from Haiti to Gaza to healthcare to housing to education? I mean, this is an administration that wants to close the education department. And there's the case to be made that it's possible that they could. Your thoughts, Dr. Wilmer Leon?
I haven't heard any Democrats make the case of why it shouldn't.
Interesting.
Make the case. So forget Nancy Pelosi. She's done. Why is she still controlling? Why is she still the king and the queen maker? She's emeritus for a reason, but she still controls the politics of the party. And we saw by the outcome of this last election that the politics of the party are what? Losing politics. Over 70% of Americans are against the genocide in Gaza. But at your convention, you did not even allow a Palestinian voice to be heard. 80% of Americans, not Democrats, 80% of Americans no longer want our hard-earned tax dollars being wasted in Ukraine. But the Democrats started that fight. They have become more Republican than the Republicans. Why are you, in God's name, trying to start a fight with China over Taiwan when American foreign policy is a one-China policy? Joe Biden, why did you go down that rabbit hole? Hakeem Jeffries, where were you? You should have been out there telling everybody that that was the wrong move to make. Why? Because it was the wrong move to make. If you don't stand for something, you will fall for anything. And my parents in Sacramento, California, down the street from Dr. West, always told me the one thing about wrong, it's always wrong. And he is on the wrong side of history on too many issues.
You know, one of my, I'm trying not to be practical. I'm trying to be practical, but there's the reality that, as you know, I served in Congress for 17 years. And I watched this body of Democrats, this body of Southern Democrats who barely win their races to get to Congress. And so they not only have African-American votes and women who vote for those Democrats in those congressional districts, they're also so marginally close to losing their seats. They spend a lot of time in the conservative red part of their districts. And so they lean to the right, knowing full well that African-Americans and women and others are their base, but they find themselves in some kind of blue dog coalition, some kind of centrist coalition. How would you argue that Hakeem Jeffries can be as principled as you want him to be, and as we want him to be as progressives, in light of the numbers that it takes to move the Democratic caucus to a piece of legislation that can actually do something for everybody?
I can't speak for the people of New York that sent him to Congress, but I don't think they sent him to Congress to be reelected. I think they sent him to Congress to work on the issues that he campaigned on. The Congressional Black Caucus is, I thought, was labeled the conscience of the Congress. The first iteration of Congress members that formed the CBC, they called themselves the conscience of the Congress. And unfortunately now they
Parent Mitchell and those guys and Gus Hawkins and those guys.
Where did they come from?
Yeah.
They came from the struggle. They came from the community. They came from grassroots organizing, articulating the positions and the interests of the disenfranchised.
That's right.
This crew knows nothing about that.
They know not Egypt.
They know that, man. Well, I'll leave it there. They know about AIPAC money. They know about getting reelected. They know about throwing nice parties in September.
You're wrong for that now, Doc.
Well, okay. Okay.
The CBC weekend now.
Okay. And what comes out of it?
Nothing.
Oh, okay.
So a good time, and 2 or 3 weeks of exhaustion.
A good time is had by all. Where's the legislation?
Yeah.
Because when we look at the current state of the economy, right? Look, when they come out and tell you how well the economy is doing, that's the financialized side of the economy. That's Citibank. Right? That's the financialized side of the economy.
That's right.
That's not the real economy. That's not, as your father talked about, that's not Main Street. That's Wall Street. Right? So talk with those people. Legislate for those people. And the CBC will be amazed at the support that is generated by doing so.
When we come forward, we have about a minute before the break, and I'm going to take us to that period. I want to ask you about what organizing is going to look like and what protest is going to look like in the Trump era. What of the resistance of the civil rights movement, and what does it mean against the backdrop of our history, the attack on the press, the neo-fascism of Donald Trump, and what it represents against the idea of the end potentially of second Reconstruction, the attack on Brown versus the Board of Education, as witnessed with the expansion of those protections in Roe v. Wade, and then the retreatment to states' rights under the Dobbs decision. Very much interested in your thoughts. I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. on KBLA Talk 1580. When we come forward, we will be continuing this conversation with Dr. Wilmer Leon, one of the nation's leading political scientists.
The news of the day. You're listening to Jesse Jackson Jr. only on KBLA Talk 1580.
Ever have one of those days where your gut just feels blah?
Ugh, yes.
Occasional bloating or gas could be signs that your gut is out of balance, but Align Probiotic can help. Align 24/7 Digestive Support is a daily use probiotic with a unique strain to help relieve occasional digestive issues. It's the #1 doctor recommended brand. So when you feel the signs, it's time to try Align. Align Probiotic. These statements have not been evaluated by the Food and Drug Administration. This product is not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease.
Oh no, stomach issues again?
Stomach issues?
Who are you?
Your pancreas. I could be the real reason for your diarrhea, gas, bloating, stomach pain, or loose oily stools.
I thought it was my stomach.
People often do, but any of these symptoms could mean having a condition called exocrine pancreatic insufficiency, or EPI. With EPI, the pancreas doesn't release enough enzymes to break down food, but EPI is manageable. Use the symptom checker on identifyepi.com and speak with your doctor. That's identifyepi.com. Sponsored by AbbVie.
The California Crusader newspaper would like to thank all of our subscribers for their support throughout the years, proudly serving the South Los Angeles and South Bay areas for more than 40 years. The California Crusader is a multicultural, Black-owned, adjudicated newspaper that focuses on providing newsworthy information to the people in our community. We're constantly looking for ways to assist businesses in our community to connect with our subscribers. We provide low-cost, effective ways to promote your business with our reasonable and affordable advertising rates. You can participate by suggesting, sharing, and submitting your stories on the California Crusader newspaper Community Share Facebook group page, or visit our website at cal-cruise-news.com. That's calcruisenews.com. Then click on the Submit Now button located on the top right corner of the homepage, or text CCN to 42828. Again, text CCN to 42828. The California Crusader newspaper, working together to build a better community for our future. Subscribe today.
KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
KBLA Talk 1580 reminds you, when we fight, we win. The Youth Justice Coalition is challenging America's addiction to incarceration and discrimination. YJC works to dismantle policies leading to mass incarceration, law enforcement violence, and the school-to-prison pipeline. Their approach? Transformative justice, community intervention, free LA high school, legal defense, and system monitoring. YJC promotes safety without relying on prisons. Their goal? Prevent system contact and help people exit the system through direct action, advocacy, and education. Want to get involved or need help? Call 323-235-4243. That's 323-235-4243. Join YJC in creating change. When we fight, we win. KBLA Talk 1580, your voice for justice. This is a community call to action from KBLA Talk 1580.
Welcome back to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show on KBLA Talk 1580. We have noted political scientist Dr. Wilmer Leon on the phone with us today, and I asked him on our show two questions before going into the break. What of the resistance of the civil rights movement and the movement for human rights and the attack on the press? How will we organize, and what does protest look like during the Trump era? Just before he responds, I want to remind everyone that Abraham Lincoln issued the Emancipation Proclamation on January 1st, 1863. He initially issued a preliminary version of the proclamation on September 22nd, 1862, which stated that enslaved people would be declared free on January 1st, 1863, if the Southern states did not cease the rebellion. December 31st, in the African American community and in our tradition, is Watch Night. We're watching whether or not the 16th President's proclamation would actually mean something. Dr. Wilmer Leon, what does organizing and protest against the backdrop of our history, the civil rights movement, and the struggle for human rights with the attack on the press, what does this mean for all of us in the Trump era?
Well, one of the things that it means is the power of programs like this, the power of programs like mine, Inside the Issues on Sirius XM, and my podcast, which you can find at Dr. Wilmer Leon on Twitter and Facebook, because it has become increasingly more difficult for those who need the information to get the information. And so new avenues, new channels have to be created, because there are too many people out there that really do not, A, understand what's at stake, and B, understand how to impact what's at stake. There are too many people that have decided, as Dr. King talked about, they're sleeping through the revolution.
That's right.
And people need to understand right now, we are in a true revolution. The empire is failing. The empire is failing. The United States we are no longer living in this unipolar environment. It is now a multipolar world. And unfortunately, we're trying to exist in a multipolar world as the unipolar hegemon, and that ain't working. And so it becomes incumbent upon the established organizations to go back into the community. It becomes incumbent upon our faith-based organizations to go back into the community. If we look at what's being taught at a lot of our HBCUs, that curriculum has to change. We can no longer be taught to go along to get along. Assimilation is no longer the word of the day. We're assimilating ourselves. What did Dr. Yet, Mr. Sam Yet talk about in The Choice? We have to ask ourselves, have we become obsolete people? He said in the book, The Choice, all the water has been drawn, all the wood has been hewn, all the shoes have been shined, all the dishes have been put away. In the mindset of the elite, not only in this country, but in the world, are we obsolete? Have we become obsolete people? And if you talk to Elon Musk and you talk to Donald Trump, to them, the answer is absolutely yes.
Tell us about the MAGA backlash on the HB1 visa program and how you see that conflicting and in an irreconcilable a case to be made against their very serious attack on diversity, equity, and inclusion as it pertains to us.
Well, so let me take the back part of that really quickly first. Who should be opposed to diversity? Who should be opposed to equity? Who should be opposed to inclusion? Why is that such a problem for so many people in that MAGA world? And when you talk about the H-1B1 visas, that's an interesting argument because that's now starting a fight within the MAGA world. You've got Steve Bannon now yelling at Donald Trump and calling Elon Musk Hitler. They love to throw that word. They love to throw that one around. J.D. Vance, what did he call Donald Trump? Called Donald Trump Hitler. Now he's standing next to the guy as the vice president elect. But I digress. So that's an interesting fight because they're saying on one hand, those in Silicon Valley are saying they can't find enough engineers, American engineers, to design the software and to design the other programs that they need to move forward. And to a great degree, what they're talking about is we can't find enough white folks to do that. Right. That's what they're saying.
That's
right?
Exactly right.
But at the same time that they're saying they can't find enough engineers, so they need to bring foreign engineers in the country at a cheaper rate, by the way, they want to shut down the Department of Education. So you're not educating the next generation of engineers. You're crying the blues. You can't find enough American engineers, but you want to shut down the institutions that educate the engineers. And then you want to cry foul at China because China is doing the very thing that you claim you can't do.
Wow.
They're creating 5G technology was created by China. And China asked the United States years ago, let's make this a joint venture. And the United States told them no. We'll do it on our own.
Wow.
That's just one example of so China invested in engineers. China invested in educating their population. China invested in bringing 800 million people out of poverty over a 25 or 30 year span. I'll say it again. They invested. China, the country that we loathe, but the country that makes everything that we buy, they invested in bringing 800 million people out of poverty, and we can't deal with 800,000 homeless people in the United States.
I find that particularly fascinating because, when I was growing up, my father and our generation, certainly my father's generation and your generation, were fighting for our fair share. It was about, we represent, let's say, in some cities and some commercial interest, 30% of their market. Why aren't we 30% of the lawyers? Why aren't we 30% of the accountants? Why are there no African Americans on your board? It was always about our fair share. Our fair share language somehow became DEI, diversity, equity, inclusion.
Correct.
Which is women, white women mostly, Asians, Indians, and a few Negroes who make it through that loop called diversity, equity, inclusion. They're saying, we want to do away now with diversity, equity, and inclusion, but we have an H-1B1 visa program to bring in super qualified technical engineers from China, from Europe, from Asia, other minorities from South America, not those who yearn to breathe free, who've walked 3,000 miles to get to the southern border, but more specifically, the economic elite within those countries. Bring them to Ivy League schools. They don't have to pass any of the litmus tests of history that African Americans at those schools have to overcome. And yet they slide in the H-1B visa program. And now Bannon and the MAGA world are reacting, as you suggested, to the consequences of, listen, we were about white purity when we started this movement. And now you're bringing in Asians at another level, and Indians at another level, and Europeans at another level, and people at a different level. You're sneaking them in the country in the name of technology and prosperity. That's deeply, deeply troubling. Dr. Wilmer Leon, in this final minute, I know you're going to stay with me for the next hour. In this final minute, your closing thoughts.
Well, and you have people like Vivek Ramaswamy, who is Indian, by the way, championing the same thing that Trump is championing. And what they need to, as it relates to the brown people coming to the border, you need to ask yourself, why are they coming? And they're coming because of American foreign policy that has decimated their economies and is forcing them to leave Nicaragua, to leave Guatemala, to leave Mexico, and come here because United States foreign policy has made living in their countries virtually impossible.
I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. on KBLA Talk 1580. When we come forward, Rabbi Michael Rothenberg, one of my close and dearest friends, will be our special guest. He is a lawyer, a former judge. He is an expert in the criminal justice system and the criminal justice process. I met Rabbi Michael Rothenberg during an extraordinary period in my life when I was incarcerated for 30 months for spending campaign funds that I raised inconsistent with the law. I paid my debt to society. He paid his debt to society. Both of us are looking for the forgiveness and the redemption of the American people. Joe Biden has about 20 days to fix a major problem for 70 million Americans who've spent time behind bars, and we're asking for forgiveness in the next hour with Dr. Wilmer Leon. I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. on KBLA Talk 1580. When we come forward, we'll be back with Rabbi Rothenberg and Wilmer Leon.